an Islamic State-inspired terror attack. Victoria State Police say the teens were planning a major attack in Melbourne to mark the centenary next week of the Anzac landings.
Christmas Island's detention centre has had a controversial past, with brawls and riots of regular occurrence. The facility will close its doors later this year.
Precise geographic centre of the Australian continent exists a surprising and relatively unknown secret.
Good evening and welcome to a special edition of 60 Minutes. I'm Nick McKenzie. Tonight we expose a toxic and dangerous world of hate.
Trigger warning. This video contains triggering or offensive content. Viewer discretion is advised. Operation Matchbox, a ploy by the UK to send Nazis to Australia. Now, what happened? At the end of World War II, well, the Nazis lost, and the Nazis were convicted of war criminals because they murdered 6 million Jewish people. And well, you think that's over, right? All of them are killed and the story is finished. Well, it's not finished, because the US and the UK had a different plan in mind. What if these Nazis weren't killed? What if we used these Nazis for our own benefit? Well, that is what happened. The US had what we call Operation Paperclip, where they took Nazis and brought them to the US. And for the UK, well, it was the same thing. It was called Operation Matchbox, where they brought Nazis to UK and also sent some to Australia. Now, what is terrible about it is that these people actually were responsible for the Holocaust, basically murdering 6 million Jews. And well, these people who were convicted of deaths, well, were now spending their time in a defense laboratory in Australia. These Nazis were working on the Australian guided rocket system, or working for the Australian Defence Minister, working on different weapons for Australia. Basically, these people escaped deaths. The supposed enemies of Australia, these enemies of the US and these enemies of the UK, were saved by the same countries and were brought to their home countries.
Good evening and welcome to a special edition of 60 Minutes. I'm Nick McKenzie. Tonight we expose a toxic and dangerous world of hate as we go inside the neo-Nazi movement in this country.
The Christmas Island Detention Center. A grim name for a grim place. So there's an island called the Christmas Island, and it's not exactly Australian, it's like an Australian external territory. So basically an island that Australia uses. And well, Australia uses this island for a very grim purpose. So in 1992, it started building this prison in this island that will later be known as the Christmas Island Detention Center, which opened in 2003. And its goal was to put immigrants inside. Perhaps their passport or their visa is expired, but from what I understand, these people are put there for immigration reasons. And for whatever the purpose, they are put there, and when they're on the island and they're in this prison, well, they aren't allowed to leave.
I'm very depressed. I'm not good. Help us. Too many people lost anything in their country. Please help me.
They can't contact a relative. There's no Wi-Fi over there, and they're basically forced to walk mindlessly in this area. And there's a gym that opens 2 hours a day, but otherwise they're just forced to wander there. And many people there are depressed, anxious, and really has lost hope in life. Because imagine you're this guy with a lot of hope in life, wanted to create a huge family and all that. Or you already had a family, you already had kids. Then you just randomly grabbed and put onto this random prison in the middle of nowhere, and you don't know when you're gonna get out. They didn't tell you why or when you're gonna get out. And just forced to stay there, and you don't know if you're gonna stay there all your life or you're gonna stay there 1 year, 7 days. And the fate of these people are very uncertain. And of course, this led to many raids and many violence. So in 2015, there was an inmate who really had enough of this being stuck on this island, being forced to wander mindlessly like ants, and he decided to escape. But he was found dead under a cliff. The response of the inmates were anger. They burned things, were trying to get out and protest against the horrible conditions, but it did not work. And in 2022, these people are still in there and still don't know when they're going to leave. And apparently there was a video chat system on the island before, but now it doesn't work. So now they don't even have any contact with their families. They can't see their kids anymore, and they're just basically stuck on this island, and maybe they're going to be imprisoned forever, forgotten by society. PINEGAP, the super secret spy facility run by the NSA and the American CIA in Australia. During the Cold War, its massive space capacities were used to spy on countries' missile progress. Countries like Russia,
Его диаметр равнялся 90 километрам.
China,
投弹，氢弹按预定弹道缓慢下降。
Pakistan, India,
परमाणु परीक्षण किया
कि हम परमाणु हथियारों का प्रयोग करने में पहल नहीं करेंगे।
and more. But in modern times, it seems that had become the sample of the American industrial military complex, helping drone strikes in Afghanistan and other countries, and using the satellite to their advantage. And some criticize that this had made Australia involved in all wars involving America. The Anzac terror plot. The time where a young teenager wanted to put a C4 on a kangaroo and commit a terrorist attack. Now what happened? At that time, he came into contact with a guy nicknamed S. And they basically first met on Twitter, but then S told him to go on Telegram. And the reason why he told him to go on Telegram is that Telegram, everything is secret, encrypted, and I guess the government can't really read what they're saying. And, well, what were they saying in that chat room? Well, they were plotting a terrorist attack. The person named S were telling him how to commit these acts, all these terrorist attacks, what to do, how to kill people. I was telling him that if he does commit all these terrorist attacks, well, he would go to heaven, which also heavily motivated the young boy. He was also heavily motivated because of the anti-terrorist raids happening after 2014 by the ASIO, so the Australian Anti-Terrorist Force. And we're raiding all these homes, as well as, well, him and his friends also came into contact and they weren't allowed to travel. And he was very, very angry. He was screaming at random cops at the mall for absolute no reason. He was extremely, extremely violent. He started chatting more with the guy we've talked about, S. And, well, 1 week before he went to commit the actual act, well, S was arrested. And S was a guy who was in the UK. And when the UK caught him, well, he tweeted to everyone to delete their Twitter account and delete their Telegram account. But even if they did or they did not, well, the police was managed to track down all these old chats and track down the people. Among those was the Australian kid living in Australia. And they tracked down the kid and contacted the police in Australia. And, well, luckily, they arrested the kid 1 week before he wanted to commit the attack. The attack involves running over cops with a car, beheading cops, as well as strapping a C4 to a kangaroo during an event called the Anzac Day, which was basically a day commemorating the New Zealand and the Australian forces who lost their lives during World War I. And during that day, he would commit all these terrorist attacks and kill police. Thank you so much for watching this video. Please leave a subscribe if you liked it, and let me know if you want a part 2. I have a lot of other topics. This is maybe not my darkest, but yeah, so let me know if you want a part 2, and I'll see you guys in the next video.
Oh, dadgummit. Jack Schmidt having a few problems.